Okay, well, welcome back to Something Theological in the studio today with me, the Reverend George Penk. Hey, Rev.
Hey, Lizzie, how are you?
Good. Is it rude to call you Rev?
Not at all. People call me a lot worse than that.
I bet they do. Hey, so Something Theological, I think that sort of explains what it's about, right? That gives us quite a bit of scope, eh?
Well, it does, yeah. I love talking theological things.
Yep. So you're the right man for the job. I had Dale Campbell on the segment recently, and lovely to have you here talking about Lent. Lent starts this week, Ash Wednesday. Look, I'm going to tell you. Before I started working at Rema Media, probably around 9 years ago, I was quite ignorant. I don't think I'd even heard of Lent, really. Like it was just some far off, distant thing in my Christian experience. Increasingly, as I've worked in this workplace, there's a whole lot of things such as Lent that now are of interest to me. But can you explain to us, what is Lent?
I think the simplest way to describe Lent is that it's a season of preparation. It's about preparing our hearts to celebrate Easter. So when we arrive at Easter, which I think most of us recognise as a really significant moment in the Christian story, when we arrive at Easter, we're actually ready for it and we've thought about it and we thought about why we need it. For me, Lent is a really beautiful time. It gets a bit of a bad rap, I think, particularly in some parts of the church, because it's kind of seen as perhaps overly somber. It certainly has traditionally been a penitential season, so a time.
What does that mean? Sorry.
A time when we're penitent for the stuff we get wrong.
Sure.
When we're mindful of our sin and also think about the fact we're mortal and we don't live forever. You know, death and sin and struggle and pain. This is all part of our reality, right? And so if we focus on that, I think it's easy for people to think, oh, that's a bit depressing, isn't it? But for me, it's not depressing. It's actually a really beautiful season because it allows us to think about some things which are really fundamental to our life in the here and now, but also to think big picture and ultimately to find some hope through that. And that's why it's so significant to sort of be in the headspace and maybe the heart space even for celebrating Easter.
Yeah. So how many weeks away is Easter? Like what is the length of Lent?
Okay, Lent is, well, it's 40 days, which as you probably know is a very biblical number. It's a great time of preparation in the Bible often. So 40 days plus the Sundays. So it's like 6.5 weeks.
Okay.
Really, the reason Sundays are never included in Lent, and if you're giving something up for Lent, you don't have to do that on a Sunday. The reason,
really?
Yeah, because every Sunday.
So what, you give up lollies and then on Sunday you can pig out?
Well, yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You have as many lollies as you like. Let's see. Personally, I'm not an 8-year-old, so that's fine.
I am at heart.
But the reason Sundays are days off, if you like, from fasting and Lent is because every Sunday is a celebration. It's a feast of the resurrection. Like every Sunday. That's why most churches meet on a Sunday, because it's the day of resurrection. So if we're celebrating the resurrection...
I never really thought about that before.
That's why we don't fast on a Sunday.
Wow.
You enjoy those lollies.
I will. Hey, so tell me about Ash Wednesday.
Yeah, so the season of Lent starts with this day, Ash Wednesday. And the reason we think about ashes is because throughout the Old Testament, particularly ashes and dust, they're a sign of our mortality. They're a sign of our sin. They're a sign of our struggle in this life. And in fact, right from the beginning of the Bible, right at the start of our sacred story, book of Genesis, there's a passage in Genesis chapter 3 where the Lord has expelled Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden because they have committed this original sin. And he says, by the sweat of your brow will you have food to eat until you return to the ground from which you were made. For you were made from dust, and to dust you will return. And those really famous words from Genesis chapter 3 are typically included in Ash Wednesday services. So the minister who's presiding over the service, they will get some ashes and they will make the sign of the cross on somebody's forehead and they will say those words.
I went to my first Ash Wednesday service last year, actually. You've just reminded me.
Yeah.
The very same thing happened.
Yeah.
Just around the corner from work here, actually. There was a bunch of us went. Does that just happen within the Catholic tradition, or for you, an Anglican? Do you do that service?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite a significant day in the church calendar. It's something, I was about to say I look forward to it. I do and I don't, because it's a weird thing to kind of look forward to, to count down to. But I think I like it because it does feel really significant. And our Ash Wednesday service at, the church I pastor, it's definitely one of the more reflective and quieter services of the year, but I think that's really cool. And it's nice to kind of gather together as a church family, as a community of faith, and to just slow down and be a bit more reflective and do the imposition of ashes, and then we celebrate the Eucharist or Holy Communion. And it's a chance to ask those really important questions and to think about some stuff that actually really, really matters.
Yeah, and through the Lent season for you as a reverend, does that, I feel like it's a dumb question, but there's no dumb questions in something theological. Does that inform the messages that you share throughout the season?
Yeah, and actually something that's really helpful in that regard is that the lectionary readings, and if you're listening to this and you're like, what's the lectionary? It's basically...
I'm wondering.
Okay, well, it's a calendar of readings calendar of Bible readings that a lot of churches right around the world follow. And the lectionary readings throughout the season of Lent as we head to Easter are passages which are, very appropriate for that. So just even by turning up to a church which follows the lectionary, like the one I'm at, you hear those readings even before you get to the preaching. You're kind of in that headspace, which is nice.
So for somebody who wanted to embrace this more in their Christian walk, maybe they're just even exploring faith and they want to engage with this season of Lent and understand it more, would you, obviously not every church, follows this, but would you turn up to an Anglican church, a local Catholic church? What would you recommend? Yeah,
you could find a church near you that observes Ash Wednesday and gets into the whole Lent thing if that's something you're wanting to lean into. I can certainly speak for myself, and I'm sure for many other ministers around the country to say that you'll be very welcome. I'm sure people in that church would love to see you and for you to be part of that journey with them in whatever way feels comfortable and appropriate for you. I think whether or not you go to an Ash Wednesday service or not, though, I think there is value in observing Lent in some way. And traditionally, the thing we always think of is giving something up. You're giving something up for Lent. And maybe that is the case for you. Maybe it's some sort of fasting. Maybe it's starting something. The way I like to think of it is, what can I do over the next 6.5 weeks that helps me connect with God? Because I think ultimately that's what Lent is about. So is there something I want to stop doing for a while? Is there something I want to start? Is there some way I want to engage with church or with the world around me? Is there some sort of spiritual practice I want to begin? Whatever it is that thing going to help me focus on God just a little bit more during the season of Lent?
So good. And if you want to catch more of Reverend George Penk's thoughts on this topic and others, you can check out the 7-minute sermon. Reverend George, thank you for being on Something Theological. Did you enjoy it?
I had a blast.
And we come back?
I definitely will.
Yay!
Thanks, Lizzie.
See you next time.